All right, guys. So today's story time, in my opinion, is a pretty good one. Pretty ridiculous one. It's not one of the most intense story times I'll ever tell. I feel like recently I've been telling a lot of stories that are like super dramatic and have like really dramatic endings and are just super insane ones, right? And don't get me wrong, this one I'm about to tell is kind of ridiculous, but it's not as dramatic as the other ones. So I hope you guys enjoy this story time. If you do, leave a like. I'd appreciate it. Or you don't have to. It doesn't really matter. Anyway, today's story time. Let's jump into it. Today's story time is about the time that I smoked weed on my girlfriend's Zoom and got her in trouble. Yeah, I'm not proud of it. Anyway, today's story time takes place back in 2020. This was in April of 2020, so COVID was like just becoming a thing and everyone was going into lockdown and like colleges were going remote, and that included my girlfriends. Now my girlfriend was living with me at the time and she had to do her classes online at this point. And for the most part, her doing classes online was pretty simple. She'd be downstairs doing her schoolwork. I'd be upstairs working on videos. It was a very, fluent system, right? Like, no complaints. It was great. And then one day, I was sitting in my room working on a video, just enjoying my day, right? And I could hear her downstairs talking on Zoom in her class to one of her professors. Now, this would happen all the time. I would hear her downstairs talking to her professors, and I wouldn't really, think about it much. But I could hear that she was talking a little bit louder than usual, and I could hear the person on Zoom yelling at her, like literally yelling. So I opened up my door just a crack to listen, and I could hear downstairs, like her getting yelled at in her Zoom class by her professor pretty aggressively. Like, it's one thing if a student is being a total asshole to a teacher and the teacher has to raise their voice a little bit to get them to kind of behave. But it's a whole nother thing when you're aggressively screaming at a student. And I'm not kidding when I say this teacher was screaming at this point. He was yelling at my girlfriend about some missed assignment. So I come downstairs and I ask her, I'm like, what's going on? And she mutes her mic. And she's like, I don't know, he's yelling at me because I didn't see this assignment. Like, it was a total accident. I missed it. And then I hear him yell, don't mute your mic when I'm talking to you. Unmute right now. And she unmutes. And she's like, I'm sorry, I was talking to my boyfriend. And he goes, fuck your boyfriend. Like, I shit you not. He said, fuck your boyfriend. And I was like, damn, this professor is very, very angry. So naturally, I don't like that very much. I don't enjoy when some dickhead professor is talking down on my girlfriend like she's some piece of shit. So I turn around and I walk into my kitchen and I go into the sink and I grab this bong that my friend keeps there every time he's over because he likes to smoke out of it. And I go over to the computer where she's talking to her professor and I roll her chair out of the way so it's just me in frame. And I start ripping this bong just in front of the entire class. The whole class starts laughing. The teacher, his face, you could see it through the screen. It got so red. He was so pissed off. He's like, who are you? What are you doing? This is just fucking ridiculous. Beyond disrespectful. How do I kick him out? Someone help me. How do I kick him out of here right now? And I just kept going. And finally, I finished my hit while he's yelling at me still. And I was like, sorry, I just had to get high to deal with your annoying ass voice. And he goes, who the hell are you? Who do you think you're talking to? I was like, I think I'm talking to some dickhead Zoom professor. Am I wrong? And he goes, get out of here. And then he kicks me out of the room. Actually, he kicked my girlfriend out of the room, but I was the one on the camera. So it was kind of like he was kicking me out. So at this point, I look over at my girlfriend, and she's like, what did you just do? I was like, I'm so sorry. I just couldn't stand to hear him yell at you like that. And she goes, honestly, I'm fine with it. I just know I'm about to get an earful later. I was like, yeah, I'm so sorry. Like, you can blame it on me. You can say that it was all my fault. And she's like, oh, yeah, I plan to. But honestly, thank you. I was like, yeah, no problem. She's like, you kind of saved me from him. I was like, yeah, that wasn't cool. He was yelling at you like you were stupid when it was a total accident. And he was swearing at you. Like, no professor is supposed to swear at their student. So after that class is over, she gets an email. My girlfriend gets an email from her professor telling her to get back on Zoom and join this private room with just him. And I sat by the side of the computer watching this, out of frame, of course. I didn't want him to see me this time because I wanted to see what he was going to say to her. So she joins the room and he goes, what you did in today's class was beyond embarrassing, not only for yourself, but for me and your fellow students. Now, I don't know what he was trying to say. If anything, I saw every student in that Zoom meeting laughing their complete ass off. But after he says this, he's like, you're going to have consequences for this. From now on, you can't have your camera on in future Zoom meetings, at least for the next week, and you can't have your mic unmuted. We'll start with a week, but if you keep misbehaving, it's going to be 2 weeks. And I'm just sitting there trying not to laugh because this professor really thought it was a punishment to make her turn her camera off and mute her mic. She could literally just go do anything she wanted and he wouldn't know if she was there or not. He was basically giving her a vacation from class. Anyway, fast forward, he starts talking about me. He's like, and where's your boyfriend at, huh? Where'd he go? The one that embarrassed all of us. I want to have a word with him. And she's like, well, he's not here right now and he's not in our class, so I don't really think it matters where he is. And he goes, oh, it matters very much. He made a fool of me, and I won't let that slide. So I pop my head into frame. I'm like, hi, Mr. Professor. He goes, that's Mr. Johnson to you. Now, his name wasn't actually Mr. Johnson. I'm just making that up because I don't want to give his real name. But he's like, that's Mr. Johnson to you. And I was like, oh, okay. And I'm Mr. Austin to you. And he goes, I don't care what your name is. You're an embarrassment. I was like, no, sir. Actually, you're an embarrassment. He's like, what? I was like, yep. You're an embarrassment to professors everywhere because you talk down on your students, you shit all over their confidence, and you make them feel embarrassed, which is one of the worst ways to teach ever. And he goes, what would you know about teaching, huh? I was like, I don't know much about teaching, but all I know is my teachers did that to me, and it eventually led to me quitting school because I fucking hated it so much. No kid wants to be embarrassed because they missed something or forgot something. Like, sometimes it just happens by accident, so you don't have to swear at them and shit all over their confidence and embarrass them to get it into their head that what they did wasn't right. There's other ways to discipline somebody. And this dude just doesn't say anything. He just goes silent for like 2 seconds, and then he looks at my girlfriend and he goes, please ask your boyfriend to leave the room so we can have a one-on-one meeting. And I'm like, gladly. Have a great day, sir. And I walk away. And after that, I can hear him in the other room. He basically tells my girlfriend to stay on track, not forget anything else, and to basically come to class and keep her mic muted. So after this all happened, she hangs up with him. She walks in my room. She thanks me for speaking up against how awful he was treating her. But she was also kind of upset because he was like punishing her for it. And I told her to email her administrators because what he was doing, like treating students like shit and swearing at them and embarrassing them like that, was not cool. And she actually listened to me. She emailed her administrator, and her administrator was this really cool lady, and she looked into it for her and had a talk one-on-one with the professor and told him to relax when disciplining his students, and if he gets another complaint, that he could get in trouble. And the administrator actually told my girlfriend that he had gotten a bunch of complaints all semester, and that he was on like his final strike after this, basically. So I guess the dude wasn't really, just being mean to my girlfriend. He was being mean to a bunch of his students. And guess what? The dude actually listened. He wouldn't yell or swear at anybody anymore because I think he knew that he was on thin ice. So yeah, in the end, this dude started treating his students with a lot more respect, which is a good thing. And my girlfriend didn't get in much trouble. I mean, she was only in trouble for about a week. She just had to keep her camera off and her mic muted, which, like I said earlier, in my opinion, is not much of a punishment. But yeah, in the end, everything was okay. Moral of this story is, if there's any teachers watching this, be respectful to your students, but also, if you are a student and a teacher's pissing you off, don't do what I did in this story time because it could have gone a lot worse. There's no reason to be hitting a bong in a Zoom meeting. That's definitely not what you need to do. I was just being a dumbass, acting out of impulse. But yeah, luckily for me, it did work out in the end as a good thing. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it for this story time. In the end, everything was okay. If you guys enjoyed this story time, please leave a like on the video. I would really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below, and subscribe if you're new. I'll see y'all later. Peace.
In the night you be wanting to fight. When I pull up you see it's like, oh shit. Cut all these ties cause they plan my demise. They all snakes and I think it's been showing. I got some issues, they haunting me daily. I'm losing my